So, good morning, everyone. It's 9:05, so I think we can start. I hope Mr. Januszka is near the computer. Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the course Project Management, which is held under the EDEC program. So you can write projects within this program and participate in the EDEC program. So please, Mr. Januszka, take your part.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Today we will speak about the project management. In our course, we will try to cover as many aspects of project management as possible. The methodology of the course will be short lectures and explanation blocks to get acquainted with new knowledge. We will try to do some group workshops and team tasks to make you focus and forbid you from falling asleep. The important rule of our course is that nothing is wrong. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to break my monologue and ask anything you want, because I'm here to give you advices. My background in project management is quite strong. I'm certified with the PRINCE2 methodology. Actually, all the available certifications, including the approved trainer. And I'm certified with the IPMA methodology as well. We will speak today about the principles of project management. We will speak about the planning. That's basically our goal today. The planning or project planning and the basics of the project management. Tomorrow we will speak about our project controlling and risk management mainly. So today we will speak about project management. So first of all, we will speak about the introduction. What is a project? 3 imperatives of the project, the phases of the project, mission and responsibilities of the project management, of the project manager, organization breakdown structure, project team, the responsibility matrix, identification and determination of project objectives, determining the scope of the project, which means what is within our project and what is outside of our project. We will speak about the stakeholders and their identification and managing of the stakeholders, because that's very important within the project. We will speak about the business case, which is one of the most important project document. And we will speak about the project charter, which is another important project document. Then we will speak about the time. So we will speak basically about the planning. We will describe the basic methods of planning, which is work breakdown structure and product breakdown structure. We will discuss the differences between these two benefits, advantages, and disadvantages. Then we will speak about how to prepare the project schedule or the timetables. We will speak about the Gantt chart and two methodologies, really basic, the critical path method and paired methodology. And of course, that we will use practical examples. For the next week lesson, we will speak about the costs in general. So how to create a project budget. Then we will speak about the quality. You have to understand that there are two approaches to the quality within the project management. The first approach is evaluation of the quality of the output. And the second approach is evaluation of the quality of the project itself. And the last chapter we will discuss will be the risk management, the risks and opportunities, because from its nature, the projects are risky business since they are unique and we don't have that much experience. Okay, since this is the online course, so feel free to do whatever you want. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm not following the written questions, so feel free to interrupt me and ask the question. Okay. According the breaks, the course will take 4 hours. So we will be together until 1 o'clock. There is no lunch break in the middle. So we have to take lunch after 1 o'clock. But I will try to make 10 minutes break each hour and let's say 20 minutes in the middle to let you stay focused. Okay, so our first chapter is Introduction to Project Management. What is the project management? The project management is a discipline involving planning, organizing, and managing, which aims to successfully manage and achieve the planned specific goals. The question is it possible to finish the project successfully without project plan or without managing the project? According to my experience, is it possible? But without the project plan, you will have a higher probability of failure. So the project plan dramatically increase the probability that the project will be successful. Project definition. A project is a time-limited work effort leading to creation of unique product, service, or organizational change. The important word here in this definition is the unique product. The projects itself doesn't have to be unique. For example, we can speak about public projects, mostly from subsidies, because they are strictly defined by law and you have to follow the legislation. So you have to do exactly what is described within the project. Therefore, the projects itself, they are not unique. You have to do the same steps over and over again, but the result is always unique. The result differs in time or in location. A project is a unique process consisting of series of coordinated and managed activities with fixed start and end dates, carried out to achieve a predetermined goal that meets specific requirements, including time, cost, and resource constraints. Definitely, the project is limited, and we are speaking about the project scope. The project scope means what is the project, what activities are within the project, and what is not project anymore. The scope or the good and clear definition of the scope is crucial for the project success. Okay, so what is the project? The start and the end date are defined. So the project is strictly limited by the time. The final product is strictly defined, but also the scope is strictly defined, the budget is strictly defined, and designated resources are strictly defined. The work or the output is unique. The project should be governed by size, complexity, and significance. Let's say if you are building a hospital, it will be a really difficult project which consists of hundreds or actually thousands of pages of plans. For example, when we were building the building actually behind me, the new applied sciences building, the project documentation before they start building has 17,000 pages. So you can imagine that is pretty complex project. On the other hand, if your project is, for example, making a barbecue in the park, you definitely don't need to have documentation in thousands of pages. You probably will have 0 pages of documentation. Therefore, You always need to choose the right amount of the project managing activities for the right project. The project are not routine work, maintenance, or operations. The project is complex set of work uh, dedicated to achieve unique output. We are speaking about the project triangle. The primary challenge of the project is to achieve its goal. Uh, but in the reality, we are limited by the three basic restrictions, which are scope, time, and budget, or the money, or the costs. And uh, these variables are at the tops of imaginary triangle. So if we change one of them, the others will change as well. So let's say that we have the project for planting the new forest. So the scope of our project is to plant, let's say, 1 million of new trees in the specific area. We have the budget for this job, and we have the time until the end of this year, for example. But let's say that we decided that we are not going to work when it's raining, and that there will be really, really rainy summer. So we will spend most of our time not working because of the rain. And then in the autumn, we will see that we spend most of our time, but we didn't plant enough trees. So the time decreases, but the scope is not filled properly. So we have to decide what to do with the project. It's not possible to add time because the time you cannot buy more time. So we have to do something with the costs or with the budget or with the scope. That means that if we don't have enough time, we are not able to plant uh, the planned amount of trees, or we are able to do it, but we need to hire more employees, which will mean that the costs will increase significantly. So you can see that these variables are connected, tightly connected. Therefore, they are called the project triangle. Uh, there is another analogy for the healthcare, for example. Our goal is that the healthcare will be for all people. Also, we want to healthcare to be the high quality, and we also want the healthcare to be free. And question is it possible? Probably not. Definitely not in the Czech Republic. So, according to our law, we have the healthcare for all. Also, we have the free healthcare, almost free healthcare in Czech Republic. And that means that the healthcare is only limited by the costs. And the quality of the healthcare in Czech Republic is given by the amount of money invested in the healthcare. And since the amount of money the state is willing to invest in the healthcare is not unlimited, the quality is limited by the budget of the national healthcare insurance system. And if we want to increase the quality within the limited budget, we need the people to add some money into the system. So there will be no more free healthcare because the people will pay for the healthcare, or we have to decrease the number of people using the healthcare system. So it will not be for all. So you can see that the project triangle limits the project significantly. The project life cycle. The project life cycle is about the project and the steps within the project. So the first, or at the beginning of the project, there is an idea. So you came up with the idea and you discuss the idea with the responsible people. Uh, let's call them the corporate management or the high management, top management. So the people which can decide if the idea is worthy or not to be executed or to be transformed into the project. So if the corporate management agrees that the idea is good, they will create so-called project mandate. Project mandate is a really simple document which say, okay, you are allowed to start preparational works for the project. So let's say do the pre-project analysis and tell us in more details if the project is possible or not, or if we are possible to fulfill the idea with the available amount of money and resources we have. So based on the idea, we create the project mandate, and based on the project mandate, we are able to launch the project. The first steps within the project is creation of the project team. The first step, or really first step, is assigning the project manager. The project manager afterwards assign the project team, and they start planning or they start preparation of the project. The first plan, it's called project charter, and the project charter includes a so-called business case. The business case is the document which describes the viability of the project. What it means. The project should be or has to be viable all the time. So let's take example from the university. Our university, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, uh, bought the Škoda factory headquarters in the city center because we have the project of expanding to the new area, and our idea was to create the new place for the uh, Faculty of Health Studies. And the goal was to create a place for new 2,500 students. But before the project or before the renovation of the building even started, the situation within the university changed, and we don't have new 2,500 students. We still have the same amount of students. So suddenly we lost the need of expanding to the new building because there was no need to do it. We can fit uh, within the old buildings without any problems. So the project was not viable anymore. There was no point to invest a huge amount of money into the renovation of building we will not need anymore. So that's the viability of the project. The project should be viable all the time. Okay, at the end of the launch phase, there has to be a decision which is called, let's say, go or no go. So again, the corporate, after the first uh, row calculations, will decide, okay, we spent little or small amount of money to do some fast, not detailed pre-calculations. And according to our pre-calculations, we think it's worthy to proceed with the project. So if they decide to go with the project, uh, the project manager and his team advances to the planning stage. In the planning stage, the detailed plans for the project are created. There is significant difference between private projects and public projects because the go or no go decision in private projects is between the launch and planning phase. But the go or no go decision within the public projects is between planning and realization. The problem is that the public projects are mostly, or in most cases, financed by the subsidies. So you need to have confirmation that your project will be subsidized. Uh, and the decision if you will receive the subsidies or not is based on the detailed plans. So in the public projects, mostly you have to do the planning phase for free. So you have to prepare the detailed plans, and you have to apply for the grant, and then you will be successful or not. So the go or no go decision in the public projects is after the detailed planning. That's the main difference. Then there is realization phase. A realization phase is quite common. Usually the problem is that the project managers are or the project managers are not tasked about the realization phase, because there is nothing important in realization phase. It's just hiring people, making sure that they know the objectives, controlling of the work packages. Uh, Most of the courses of project management just skips the realization phase, because the realization is the thing which you need to learn from practice. Then there is the acceptance phase of the project or of the project life cycle. In the acceptance phase, you need to handle the project output to the customer and make sure that the customer accepts the project product. And after this, there is last phase of the project lifecycle, which is called project closure and evaluation. And within this phase, you are uh, you are creating the lessons learned log, and you are writing down any important or interesting experiences you received within the project, and you are evaluating the project to capture the future experience or to increase the possibility of future success. It's everything clear so far? Okay, let's hope yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so the first and most important document which is created within the launch phase is project charter. So the go or no go decision in the private project is based on the project charter. In the public project, as I said, uh, you need the detailed plans, and detailed plans within the project is called PID, which means project initiation documentation. And the project initiation documentation is the summary of all the project plans created within the planning phase of the project. So let's get back to the project charter. The project charter determining the strategic goals of the project. The strategic goal means the overall goal of the project. Let's say to increase the company revenue, or to increase the quality of life. So it's really a general goal which your projects are helping to achieve. Uh, the gradual goals and the outputs are detailed description of what your project is exactly going to do. Then there has to be the scope of the project described within these documents, limitations and assumptions of the project. The project is limited time to time. So the example of the project limitation is, let's say, the example should be the subsidies. If we receive the full amount of subsidies, we will build a 5 floors high building for the new faculty. But if the subsidies will be cut, we will cut the top floor since we don't need it, essentially. Okay, the project assess. That means how we are going to do the project. Let's say that our project is connect one side of the river to or connect both sides of the river. You can build a bridge. You can find the shallow space in the water and you can just cross the water, or you can use boats to connect the both sides of the river. So the assess is that you choose which way or which technology are you going to use within your project. Then there are estimates for effort, cost, and duration. Of course, that there has to be the project success criteria. You need to state at the beginning when your project will be successful or accepted. It's really important to have this decision described within the project. Preliminary risk assessment. The risks are integral part of the project management, since the projects are risky activities from its nature. Therefore, you have to work with the risks all the time within the project. Resource requirements. Basically, you need to track the requirements for resources. So let's say that the company has limited a number of unique resources, and they need to decide which project should use them. You need to prepare the preliminary budget, and also you have to agree on the form how to hand over the project results to the customer. That's also really, really important. From my experience, I was once preparing the questionnaire for the quality satisfaction with some software solution. So we didn't agree on the form how to handle the questionnaire or how to hand over the questionnaire. So I present the questionnaire. The questionnaire was about 70 questions dealing with the quality of the software solution. So I present the questionnaire, and the customers or the customer representatives give me feedback for, let's say, 5 questions that they don't like it and they want to change them. But we didn't sign any documents. nothing. So I incorporated their requirements, changed the questionnaire, and presented once more. But there were other representatives of the customer, and they asked me to change, let's say, 10 different questions. So if you don't agree on the principle of handing over the results, you may never hand the results over because there will be always something to improve. Okay. First, the goal of the project. The goal at the strategic level characterizes why the effort is to be implemented uh, and what are the business benefits of the project. Again, there is the huge difference between private projects and public projects. Within private projects, you can describe the business benefits of the project in terms of money. But you cannot do it in the most cases of the public projects because the public projects in general are aiming to create some public good, which is really difficult to measure or to describe. The goal of the project is a statement that describes what we want to achieve with the project or to what the project should contribute. So let's say increase overall customer satisfaction by implementing a customer relationship management system. Business benefits. For example, installation of new web server to improve the IT infrastructure, fast response for customers, faster pricing, gaining new customers. The objectives are goals described in the detail. So the objectives should follow the SMART rule. They should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based, which means that they need to be clear. And at any time, we should be able to say if the objective is fulfilled or not. Let's say the example of the SMART objective is that until the end of the year, we will increase the amount of the policemen by 500. So at the end of the year, we can evaluate the goal and we can say, okay, we were able to increase the number of the policemen by 400, which means that our goal is filled from 80%. So the goal should be SMART. Okay. So let's take a break for 10 minutes until 10 o'clock. Yes?
Yes, I agree.
No, I see the risen hand. So normally that means that somebody has a question. So if you have questions, feel free to ask it. And I will continue. So the objective should be SMART. It's really important because otherwise the project cannot be measured and evaluated properly. The another important or the next important thing is scope. And from my point of view, the scope is the most important thing within the project management. Why? There was an research project in England within the uh, new version of PRINCE2 methodology, and they were trying to find the answer within the unsuccessful projects. They were looking for the reason why the projects were unsuccessful. And they find out that more than 70% of the projects were unsuccessful because of the wrong definition of the scope. The scope should establish the logical boundaries of the project, define what is a project and what is no longer a project, define the range so it can be managed effectively. And the more detailed scope, the greater chance of success. Let's describe it on the example. The town hall of the Pilsen creates the project for the renovation of the kindergarten in the city center. And the project documentation wasn't clear enough, and the scope wasn't set clear enough. So the private company who was uh, doing the project, they renovate the whole building and the whole interior, but the city clerks refuse to sign the handover papers because they insist on the renovation of the garden and the toys at the garden of the kindergarten. And because it was not clearly defined within the paperwork and within the project, the company refuses to renovate the garden because they insist that the goal was to renovate the building itself. And they said that it's extra work which needs to be paid separately. And the city clerks said that they think that it's the one piece, or that the building and the garden are connected. Therefore, the renovations should cover both the building and the garden. Of course, that the project end not well. Actually, this leads to the law case, and probably they will not ever work together again. So the right definition of the scope is crucial within the projects. Assumptions and limitations. The assumptions and limitations are events or conditions that you need to happen, and most likely they will happen as well. The assumptions and limitations have low level of risk. They can also be identified by looking for low risk from an initial estimate of risk events. So, for example, when we are building a new faculty, the assumption is that we will receive the building permission from the city. Approach. Approach is verbal description of the intention when compiling the plan. So it's the determination of restriction or fixed deadlines, evaluation of the possibility of the possible variants, and state why this variant is chosen. It also describes how the project product will be maintained after the end of the project. It describes the related projects, and it describes what will be the progress of the project from start to finish. Of course, that at higher level of resolution. So now we will try to do the first practical example for the aim and purpose of a project. As a newly hired project manager, you came to the XYZ company to manage a project. Several change requirements for approval are already prepared. Although you may not approve all of them yourself, your comments and recommendations are required for all of them. Define the goal and purpose of the project, and based on them, decide on the recommendation of individual requirements for disapproval. Justify your decisions. So the example is, there are large number of parks in the ABC district. Because of this, the neighborhood has become a refugee for a large number of homeless people who make life difficult for the people around them. Children who go to the parks or playgrounds are especially at risk. Residents are calling for immediate solution that would force the homeless to leave the parks. According to a controlled discussion between the population and representatives, the ideal solution would be to build a center for the socially disadvantaged, which would be adequately equipped for dealing with the homeless. A tender was announced for the center, which XYZ company won. The selection and purchase of the site is in the competence of the implementing company. Prior to the implementation of the center's construction project, the pre-project study phase was neglected. For this reason, during the implementation, several change requests emerged from the managers of the company, ordinary residents, and the city representatives, which needs to be decided. The first request comes from the management of the company. In the neighboring neighborhood, so in another district, there was an opportunity to buy an old dormitory, which will soon end its activities. The project would be significantly cheaper, which would undoubtedly appeal to the city officials. In addition, they would not have to look for a new staff, as it would be possible to make the most of the dormitory staff. This would undoubtedly also save money. So there is the old dormitory in the neighbor district, which could be taken. What is your decision regarding the project goal? Should we agree to this or not?
I think it's a great opportunity.
Okay, it's definitely a great opportunity, no doubt. But you have to look at it in the or from the project aim and purpose point of view. Any other ideas? Okay, so if there are no other ideas, the problem is that the aim of our project is to create the homeless shelter within our district. So the creation or the buying of the dormitory in the neighbor district is in the conflict with the aim of our project. So even if it's good idea, which could save some money, it is in conflict with the aim of the project and cannot be recommended. Okay?
Okay.
The second demand comes from the residents who are proposing that the center can be designed for more homeless people. They argue that the residents themselves will work voluntarily in the center, thus saving part of the operational cost, which can be invested in the larger capacities. So from the aim and purpose of the project point of view, should we recommend this or not?
Well, I think it will be too risky.
Okay. Again, no arguing here. It's definitely risky, and you cannot rely on the residents that they will work voluntarily, because you cannot force them to do it. But from the aim and purpose point of the view, you don't have problems with this. The problem is from the risk point of view. So it's risky, we don't recommend it, but it is not in the conflict with the aim and purpose of the project. Okay. The third request comes from the city itself. City representatives believe that the new system of social benefits will significantly reduce the number of homeless people on the streets, and they fear that the originally intended center will be empty. Therefore, they suggest that the center should be used primarily for drug addicts and prostitutes who the city believes could move to the ABC neighborhood after the homeless leave. So, what do you think? And again, from the aim and purpose of the project point of view.
I think that the priority is to solve the situation about homeless. So we need to focus on this part first.
Mhm. Yes, that's true. The changing of the purpose of the project is always problematic and should not be allowed. Uh, if they want to change the purpose of the building or the purpose of the center, the first project should be cancelled or ended, and they should start new project with the new aim and the new purpose. Uh, that's connected with the business case I was speaking about before. That if there will be no more homeless in the neighborhood, the project is not viable anymore and should be ended. And there's another problem with the drug addicts and with the prostitutes. Therefore, the new project should be created to deal with the new problem. Okay. Estimates for effort, cost, and duration. Estimates of duration of activities, number of employees, material requirements. Uh, procedures for greater detail and accuracy according to the degree of the knowledge of the project. There must be an iterative process between the project definition, document, and the project plan. Simply, there are two approaches, the bottom-up approach and the top-down approach. We will speak in detail later on. But at the beginning, you are using the estimates for the effort, cost, and duration. The easiest way to solve this is to use experience from the similar projects. If there are no similar projects, you can use the experience from you need to do expert estimation, but the problem with the expert estimation is that everybody thinks that the expert estimations are just made up numbers. The best way how to do the expert estimation is in the decomposing of the project, and after that, the aggregation of the information you receive. So let's say that your project is to build the house. Probably it's not possible to go, for example, to the Baumax store and tell them, give me the material for the house. They will probably think that you are crazy. So you need to decompose the project to the smaller parts, which you are able to describe in terms of time, material, and money. So you will decompose the house into the, let's say, roof, walls, and the basement or the foundations. Okay, that's still not enough. So you will decompose the foundations. Foundations consist from the concrete, from the metal net, and basically, let's say that's it. So you can say, okay, my foundations are 50 square meters of the concrete, 50 centimeters deep, which makes it 25 square meters of the concrete with 1 ton of metallic network. And if you ask for the price of the 25 cube meters of the concrete, you will receive the exact answer. So you will decompose the whole project to the parts you are able to describe in the terms of money, and then you will aggregate again this information. So after the aggregation, you will be able to say, okay, I'm able to build the house for, let's say, 200,000 euros, and it will probably take me 3 months. So for the estimation, from my point of view, the best way how to deal with this, if you don't have the experience from the similar project, is decomposition and aggregation. Project success criteria. Project success criteria are the criteria for the success of the projects. They are derived from the goals and outputs of the project. So what could be the project success criterion for the house?
If it stands safely.
Okay.
Probably that the house is well built,
Okay.
that it could serve for many years.
Mm-hmm. I have to admit that I don't know the word in English, but in Czech Republic, if you are building the house, then at the end they will come person from the, let's say, construction office, from the public construction office. The person will come and he will check if the house is built according to the plans you agreed at the beginning with the construction office on. And if the house is building according to the plans and everything is done, you will receive the paper which accepts that everything is right, and then after that you will receive the official address number. So since then you can receive, for example, the mails. So that's the criterion which is basically used in the houses. Again, there is the internal aspect as well. If the project was managed and implemented effectively. External perspective is about the quality of the output. So if the house was built or not, or if it stands or not. Preliminary risk assessment. So the future conditions or circumstances that are behind the control of the project team, and when they occur, because they have the certain probability, may have a negative impact on the project. So risks are the potential future problems that has not yet occurred, but they can occur. They are within all of the project. We cannot completely eliminate them, but we can anticipate and reduce them. And the goal or the art of the project of the risk management is to solve the potential problems before they arise. Again, interesting thing within the project is that we are interested only in the negative part of the risks. If we are working in business and we are preparing the business plan, which is really similar to the project, we are interested in the positive side of the risk as well, because we estimate that we are going to earn 1 million crowns. And if we are successful and we will earn 2 million crowns, that's great. That's much better than 1 million. But this is not true within the projects, because we are in the projects, we are interested in achieving our goal. If we achieve the goal faster, it's okay, but we don't care. But if we don't achieve the goal or achieve it late, that's the problem. So we agreed on exact amount of time and money, and if we make it faster and cheaper, it's good, but not necessary. But if we don't make it in time or more expensive, that's the problem. Therefore, in projects, we are mainly measuring the negative side of the risks. It's called pure risk. Just the negative risk is called pure risk. Negative and positive risk, it's called business risk. So the business risk has negative and positive side. The pure risk has just the negative side. The first step is risk identification. We need to select a set of risks relevant to the project. In the risk identification, we should involve all the stakeholders relevant to the project, and if we are not able to identify the risks, we are not able to manage them at all. So the identification is the first and most important step of the risk management. Now we move to the slightly different part of the project management because not all of the projects are dedicated to do something new or to prepare something new and better. Important part of the projects are projects which deals with some type of the problem. We have the problem, we need to solve the problem, so we prepare the project which goal is to solve the problem. So first of all, there is the problem identification. So there is the problematic situation which requires management intervention. The manager is responsible for it in whole or in a part. Again, is unambiguous fulfillment of a term task in the given scope, quality, and cost, or ambiguous in content of authority and responsibility, threats and opportunities. So first of all, we need an overview of deviations, threats, and opportunities. Then we need to monitor them and develop, monitor their development in relation to the objectives. We need perception of threats and opportunities, and we need to look for the possible improvement. Then we will set goals in the area of the manager's responsibility to use some clear explanation. We are producing something within the company, and there is a huge amount of wasted material. So the project goal will be the reduce of the waste, which sounds good. It's the regular project within the companies. But at the beginning, we just identified the problem. The problem is excessive waste, but we do not know how to solve the problem. Uh, we don't know the approach of the project. So we have to find the right approach to solve the problem. So we need to ask the couple of questions. In which areas are the set of goals not being met? Which problems remain unsolved? What solutions are we working on or will we work on in the near future? What decisions need to be made now? What decisions have we already made? Does it have to be implemented? Will there not be a conflict with already running projects? Which major projects, processes, plans need to be implemented? Then we have to set the priorities. Priorities are criteria reflecting aspects of the significance of individual problems, the size of the resources affected by the problem, severity of the negative impacts, the urgency of solving the problem, estimation of threats of future development of the problem, stagnation, weakening, strengthening, numerical evaluation, and adhere to set priorities. So within the description of the problem, we need to describe what, the bearer of the problem, where, the location of the problem, when, the time of failure or where the problem occurs, and how many, scope, for example, scrap rate, number of complaints, trends, and so on. Then we should divide it based on the unique features, comparison with the other objects where the problem could manifest itself, but it does not manifest itself. Again, what, where, when, how many, but we are asking where the problem could happen, but it not happen there. This approach should aid us with the identification of the right activities. So the result is determining what is and what is not a problem, and help us to isolate the specific features of the problem, or in other words, to find a root cause of the problem. Specification of probable causes, examining individual differences and determining whether they represent a change. What relevant changes occurred before the problem was identified? The result will be a list of changes which should include the causes of the problem. How could the change lead to the problem? So we create the list of possible causes, and the caution is that sometimes the problem may be caused by the simultaneous occurrence of two or more changes. Okay, the another step is project resources. Project resources are the means by which a project is implemented. So let's say the project transforms the resources to achieve its goals, or the project consumes the resources to achieve its goals. There are basically three types of resources: human resources, material resources, and financial resources. Let's say that there is another group, the information. So the resources I can consume, for example, the material. I can use the resources. It's the human labor or the money. And there is another specific type of resource where I pay for one-time use of the resource. Okay, the resource requirements. Definitely, we have some human resources, the staffing of the project. They are connected with the project organization. There are three types of the basic organization structures within the project: the functional, the metrics, and the project organization structure. And in this step, we will prepare a so-called organizational breakdown structure. So the organizational breakdown structure is basically the list who is responsible for what and who is giving the orders to whom. First person within the organizational matrix is project manager. Project manager is not responsible for achieving the project goals. Who is responsible for the achieving of the project goals? So the person who is responsible for achieving the project goals, it's called project owner or project sponsor. So that's the one who is doing the quality assurance of the project product. So he's the one who is responsible for the achieving of the project goals. The tasks of the project manager are to define goals, prepare plans, organize, find suitable workers, lead the project team, control, and communicate with the stakeholders outside of the project. To describe in detail the responsibilities, we use the matrix of responsibilities. Within this matrix, there are four roles within the matrix. The A is for accountable, who is doing the job. R is for responsible, who is carrying the responsibility. C is for consult or can advise, consult it. And E is for, or I is for, should be informed, information. And on the slide, we can see the example. Hold on. The example of the matrix of responsibilities. There is another example of matrix of responsibilities, the graphical one. And again, we need the responsible person, accountable person, informed person, and consulted person. For each activity, someone must be responsible. There must be one responsible person in each line. If someone is responsible, they must also be provided with the appropriate powers. Once responsibilities and powers are separated, that means that you have responsibility without authority or authority without responsibility. It's wrong, and you should avoid such situation, even as a superior or as a subordinate. The organization structure is quite connected with the two terms, which is delegation and authorization, which means transfer of powers and responsibilities. We are speaking here about participatory management. For example, within the PRINCE2 methodology, we not use any other type of personal management. The participatory management means that, let's say, the team manager is given the task with the boundaries for himself. The boundaries means, okay, you have 1,000 crowns to finish these tasks, and your boundaries are plus minus 10%. So if you are going to make it within 1,100 crowns, we are fine, and we don't care how you are going to make it. But in case you will see that you will cross the boundaries, you need to inform your superior, and you need to deal with the problem together with your superior. Advantages of empowerment. We will receive higher quality solutions. There is no micromanagement required. The team is responsible for some of the outputs. The solutions use synergies. There is continuous rating, and there is better feedback. And also, we are letting the people to grow and to take their own responsibilities. So, the example, accountability matrix. The company deals with gastronomy and organizing related events. The implemented project concerns a celebration connected with a banquet, which the company is to organize on the occasion of the anniversary of a famous person. The celebrity manager wants to be informed about every detail and also wants to be consulted during the choice of location, choice of date, choice of food, and selection of guests. So from this sentence, we can see that the celebrity manager will have I for to be informed in each activity because he wants to be informed about each activity, and they will have C like wants to be consulted in the listed activities. All activities are performed by the project manager himself. So the project manager is accountable for all listed activities. He must also be informed about everything that happens in the project, except the activities he performs. So in all other identified activities, the project manager should be informed about. The celebrity manager also wants to be directly involved in the preparation of the site on the day of the celebration. So he will be responsible for this task. The implementing company has set aside only a project manager for this project in terms of management, who must do without his own team. Chefs, waiters, bouncers, and cleaners will be then take part in the actual implementation. After specifying organizational matters, choice of place, time, food, and guests, there is a relative calm. Work on the project does not begin until the day before the planned celebration. On this day, it is necessary to prepare the site, which is the task of externally hired cleaners. The employment agency that provides them for the needs of a company is responsible for the fulfilling of the tasks. So the cleaning is going to be done by the cleaners, but the personal agency is accountable for the cleaning due to the fact that the realizing company does not have much experience with the celebrations. It's also it also hired an expert through decorations to advise in the preparation of the site. So the expert will be responsible and accountable for the decoration. The next day is necessary to prepare food, transport it to its destination, and ensure the correct course of celebrations. The food will be prepared by ordinary chefs, and the company's chef is responsible for its quality. So again, the ordinary chefs will be accountable and the company chef will be responsible. The transport must be taken care of by waiters for whom the maître d' is responsible. The waiters must also ensure the course of the banquet in terms of food. So you can see that based on the description, you can quite easily decide who will be responsible, accountable, informed, and consulted within each activity. Okay, so let's say that now we will take 10 minutes or 20 minutes breaks, and we will start over again at 11:20. Okay? We can start again. The preliminary budget. The preliminary budget is description of the resource costs for individual activities, cost of purchased supplies and services, risks and response costs need to be taken into account. We are oftenly speaking about so-called S-curve. Why the S-curve? Because the graph seems like the letter S. At the beginning, there are not much costs to be paid because there is the planning phase of the project, which is quite cheap. Then there is drastic increase in the cost consumption due to the need of obtaining all the equipment and the material. And at the end, again, everything is done and we are dealing with handing out of the project results and project closure, which are in terms of the project cheap activities. Form of handing over the project results to the customer. We are speaking about contractual termination of the project. We need official confirmation that the customer accepts the product. We also need it to the business audit, which checks to determine whether everything has been met according to the specification. Instruction for customers and suppliers. Our project participants. The project participants or the stakeholders are natural or legal persons who have an influence on the project or are affected by the project. There are two groups of stakeholders. First is direct participants, which are people directly dealing with the project, and the other group is indirect participants. Do you know who is, for example, the indirect participant?
Some kind of approval institution.
Okay, but if we should describe them, the indirect participants are not part of the project, but usually they are not interested in the project results, but they have the power to influence the project. For example, the building authority, ecological organizations, owners of the neighboring land, and so on. So my neighbor, he is not interested in my project at all. He will be rather happier if I will not build the house next to him. And I need his signature on the construction application. So he is indirect participant of my project, and he can significantly delay my project or even stop my project. So within the projects, we need to work carefully with all the stakeholders, especially with the indirect stakeholders or indirect participants, because they are not interested at the project results. The analysis of project participants consists in identifying the interests of the participants in the task that the project solves, the main preconditions for their impact on the project, conflicts of interest between participants that would affect the riskiness of the project, existing and potential links between the participants, which would broaden the prospects for success of the project, and how different participants can participate in the project. Example of the stakeholder categorization. As a project manager, you have led the project to the communication planning. Based on a list and a brief description, your task now is to divide the stakeholders into 4 categories, from which the strategies for managing communication will then follow. Sorry. The following stakeholders were identified in the stakeholder identification process. Be careful, you should now place the stakeholders into the stakeholder matrix based on the strength of their influence. So if they can do something with the project, and based on their interest on the project results. So if they are highly interested in the project and can influence the project highly, we need the tight steering. We need work together really tightly. If they are not interested in the project, but they have strong influence or high influence, we need to satisfy them. So the strategy is maintaining satisfaction. If they have low interest and low strength, we don't care about them at all. So we just monitor them. And if they have high interest and low influence, we just keep them informed about the project. So you need to draw the similar metrics and place all the stakeholders to the appropriate fields. So the first are environmental organizations are threatening to boycott the building because it is supposed to stand in one of the few places where a certain species of animal occurs in the Czech Republic. However, company knows from experience that it always stays with threats. And in fact, there are no protests. Even if they took place, the company knows that it has all the permits and that they would not significantly affect the construction. The regional representatives are very interested in the project because it is part of their strategy to increase employment. If the project did not succeed, their positions in the region will be endangered. The company has all its operations in the region and knows that the hostile bureaucracy can make the company's activities unpleasant on many occasions. Similarly, the administration could cause problems at the national level. However, none of the ministries is interested in the project. Dozens of existing workers who are currently working in the location several kilometers from the intent construction should be moved to the factory. None of them have major problems with this move, and there are no unions in the organization. The exclusive customer closely monitors the progress of the project, and he was promised higher quality, which should be ensured by the modernized processes in the new building. The exclusive supplier of the production division was not interested in the project at all, but wished to be informed about its progress so that he could adjust his deliveries. The director of the project department of company, which operates separately from the production division, combined with the success of the construction of the factory, his further work in the company. The company's management put a knife to his throat after the last similar project ended in fatal failure. So now you should think about it and place the stakeholders to the relevant field. And go ahead and tell me where you placed the ecological agencies.
They have high influence.
High influence and the second parameter.
They are not interested.
Okay, high influence, low interest. Actually, since we can read here that the company has all the permits and they don't expect the construction to be affected by the protests, they have low influence and low interest. So we don't have to care about them. What about the regional representatives?
I think they have high interest and also the influence.
Okay. Workers?
High interest and low influence.
Again, both low and low, because they don't have unions They are fine with the move. Okay, we can look here. There are results. So we need to work tightly with the production division, the director of the project, and the region representatives, because they are all highly interested in our success and they are able to influence the project. The state needs to be satisfied, so we need to comply with all the legislation, since state is not interested in result of our project at all. But if we fail to comply with the legislation, the project will be stopped. And the rest of the stakeholders are not that much interesting for us. So we will either just monitor them or keep them informed. Okay, and now let's move to the second part of our course, and that's the project lifecycle and the project phase. We can see on this chart another S curve about how the works are being done within the project. And here we have the list of the project phases. First is preparation, then planning, then realization, then closure, and within the closure or after the closure of the project is the evaluation phase of the project. The project definition, logical framework of the project. According to my opinion, the logical framework is one of the most useful tools within the project planning. If you do the logical framework right, you have the foundations or basis for all for the rest of our planning. What is the logical framework? It's a tool which gives us means for the problem identification and analysis, for the defining goals and setting specific activities to address these issues. It also works as an evaluation tool in terms of suitability and adequacy for solving the problem, and in terms of its feasibility and sustainability. The logical framework can be used for partial process of the project cycle management, facilitating communication between stakeholders, identification of interest groups and problems they encounter, and logical identification of goals, purpose, outputs, and activities leading to the solution of problem. We can imagine the logical framework as a really simple table with the 4 columns. The first columns is objectives and activities of the project. The second column is objectively verifiable indicators. The third column is sources for their measurement. And the last column is risks or assumptions that condition the achievement of the project results and objectives.
And then we have the lines. The first line is strategy goal. It's more general answer to the question why. A higher level goal to achieve which the project is only one of the preconditions. The more or the strategic goal is normally prepared according the program goal. So there is the similar goal within our strategic goal of the project and with the strategic goal of the program we are trying to apply for or to fulfill with. The second line is more interesting from our point of view. It's the simple answers to the question why. What we are intent to achieve with the project. The real or fundamental motive and influence of the project. Then the purpose is decomposed to the exact outputs, which are answering the questions what specific outputs achieved by controlling individual parts, what really came through. And the last line are activities, which describes how the project will be achieved or how the outputs will be achieved. The activities belonging to the individual outputs to be performed together with the resources that must be available to create these outputs. So, how do we fulfill the logical framework? We are starting in the left upper corner and fill the table. But then at the end, we are checking the table from the right bottom part, if the table is right or true or false, let's say. So to give you an example, the strategic goal is to increase the success of doctoral studies. Okay, so the strategic goal is not really exact description what we are going to do with the project, but our goal or our strategic goal is to increase the success rate of the doctoral studies at the University of West Bohemia. Okay, the goal gives us answer to how we are going to achieve it. So let's say that we find out that the problem is that the doctoral students does not perform their own research if they are not properly motivated. So the goal is to provide the research framework in the fashion of new project called IDEC, which will help the students to conduct their own research. The outputs, that means how we are going to achieve the goal. So first of all, we need to secure the financing for the program. Second of all, we need to provide the doctoral students with the training activities before they apply for the grant. Third of all, we need to open the call for the doctoral programs or for the doctoral project, and we need to evaluate the applications, and we need to provide the funding to the most successful applicants. Fourth of all, we need to monitor the results of the projects. Fifth of all, we need to evaluate the success of the projects. And let's say that's it. And the activities, they are describing the actual activities which needs to be done to secure each of the outputs. So, for example, I'm working on the output, providing the training for the doctoral students before the applications. So, what was my activities to secure this course? First of all, I prepared the presentation. I translate the presentation into the English. Then I came today and gave the lecture, and that's it. So to achieve my part of the output, I need 3 activities: prepare the presentation, translate it to English, and teach the course. And as you can see in column 1, you have the product breakdown structure. So we are breaking or decomposing the goal into the products, so-called outputs. And then we have so-called work breakdown structure, that we are decomposing the outputs into the activities, which needs to be secured to achieve the results. So the preliminary condition in this case will be that some doctoral students will apply for my course. So you applied. Then I will finish all 3 of mentioned activities. And when they are finished correctly, that means that the output training of the students before the project application is done. When all the outputs are done, that means that the goal is done. And when the goal is done, that means that the strategic goal is done. And in column 2 and 3, we are measuring or making sure that the outputs are filled. So how can we measure the success rate of our education, of this course? Is someone still alive and listening to me? How can we measure and prove the outputs of this seminar?
By answering the questions.
No, actually, let's say that I received funding to organize this seminar. And 3 years from now, when the project will be over, somebody from the Ministry of Education will came and he will ask me, okay, prove us that you really organized the seminars. How can I prove it?
You can show them this video. because it is recorded.
Okay, I can show the video, but actually the video records are not used oftenly. All of you applied for this course before, for this seminar, so I can show the applications, and if the seminar will be not online but on site, I will just send the paper with attendance, and you will sign the attendance at the seminar, and I will show the signed attendance papers during the project audit. So that's the important thing to write down in column 2 and column 3, how I'm going to prove that the activities taken place, and where will I store the information, or how I will store the information. So in our case, I will store your application for this lecture. Okay, again, many of the projects are dealing with some problem, so we need to do proper problem analysis. Make list of all issues related to the project, identify the key issue you will address in the project, write down the causes of the key problems, write down the consequences of the key problem, create a cause and effect diagram. The outer windows describe the causes and the consequences with less influence. The closer the window is to the key cause, the greater its impact. So here is the really simple example how the cause and effect diagram should look like. From my point of view, the more interesting thing within the project is the correct analysis of all interested groups, or so-called stakeholders. You need to identify all the stakeholders, decide which of them are the primary stakeholders, the target groups that will benefit from the project, compare them, compare the problem tree with the analysis of the interest groups, and you need to decide what issues affects your primary interest groups, and prioritize the solutions according to the primary target groups. Now you can fill in the purpose line. So with the use of problem analysis and the interest of group analysis, you need to formulate a purpose that relates to the key issues and takes into the account your primary stakeholders. So, and again, if I choose the project IDEC as an example, the problem is that we want to increase the quality of our doctoral studies, and we are trying to achieve the increased quality of the doctoral studies by giving the research project to the doctoral students themselves. So since the projects are mostly individual, that means that the doctoral students will basically have to take care about all activities related to the successful project management, which will significantly increase his abilities and capabilities and experience in comparison with bigger team projects where you can where you are, let's say, part of the team. So definitely you are not going to receive the experience in all fields of the project management. There is, let's say, common agreement that the purpose is written in the positive way to solve the problem. So it's just the way how it's being written. So you don't have to worry much about it. The purpose is longer-term result of the project. It shows the benefits that the primary stakeholders will have from the project. It's measurable somehow. It's verifiable somehow. What are the prerequisites for achieving it, and what are the risks and how to respond to them? If we are speaking about risk within this specific project, IDEC, what do you think are the risks with the small projects for the doctoral students?
That they won't be students for all the period of the project. Maybe they can finish or stop studying during.
Okay, actually, that's exactly right. That's the most problematic thing about the small individual project with the PhD students. Since the salary of the PhD students is, at least at our faculty, less than the half of the average salary, the students are really oftenly overpaid and taken by the private sector. And when the project is being carried out in the larger team, let's say whole department, the loss of the one team member is not significant at all. But when we are speaking about the small project carried out or resolved by just one student, when the student leave the faculty, the project cannot be taken over by somebody else. So the result is failure. And actually, the success rate of the doctoral studies is not that high. So the major risks with this type of the project is that the students will end their studies before the end of the project. Indicators are the second column. So values that will be affected. How will they be affected? How will we measure these values? Are they quantifiable? When will this happen? So again, when we take it to this project, our goal is to increase the success rate of the doctoral studies. So what values will be affected? The success rate in percentage, in percents. How will they be affected? We hope that the higher percentage of the doctoral students will successfully finish their PhD title. How will we measure the values? Simply, at the end of each year, we will count the success students. Are they quantifiable? In our case, yes. When will this happen? In a 3 years period. You can ask which interest groups will be affected, what will be essence of the changes, when will the changes take place. Verifications, where the data are stored or where the data can be found. For example, minutes of the meeting, feedback from the interest groups, reports, project reports, reports of external evaluators, attendance lists, comparative study or quality research. Okay, it's 12 o'clock. Let's take a 10 minutes break and then we will continue with the rest of the course. Let's speak about the goal. The goal is on the second line, and the goal briefly says how your project will affect the environment. You can say how the project fits into the national strategy or what has a long-term impact in your locality, region. Outputs. Outputs contributes to the fulfillment of the purpose. Longer term outputs. It brings user something new. It can be a result of group activities. It's measurable and verifiable. Resources. They contribute to the creation of the output. They are not the output themselves. Only their combination creates the output. They are usually measurable and verifiable. Monitoring and evaluation. Based on the logical framework, it is possible to perform a basic analysis of the project, specify the data structures that will be used for monitoring, monitor outputs and activities, perform self-performance evaluation and cost monitoring, identify the strengths and opportunities for improvement. Elaboration of a project plan, project structure, project scope, and plan. Elements of the project plan. The first is the project summary. So within the project summary, we need the brief description of the project, the description of the outputs, the description of the milestones. What is the milestone within the project?
Some partial achievement.
Milestone, it's the exact or preset time within the project schedule where the achievements are being evaluated. So usually the milestone is at the end of each phase. And within the milestone, we are deciding what to do next with the project. So we are deciding, did we achieve all the planned values within the planned budget? Yes or no? If no, are we still able to achieve all the planned values? Yes, no. If no, it's still worth it to continue with the project. So the milestones are the places within the project schedule where the project is being evaluated and where the decisions about the project's future are being taken. Then expected profit, benefit, competitiveness, target group, goals, detailed description of outputs, and project mission. My advice is that the best way how to prepare the project plans is start from the so-called product breakdown structure. In your case of the project IDEC, it's simply that you will make the list of all the deliverables, all the outputs or the physical outputs you are willing to achieve, and then based on the list of the deliverables, you are starting to write down the description of the plan, how to achieve the deliverables. Okay, the second group of the elements of the project plan is overall approach to the solution. So the technical and managerial aspects, relationship to other projects, deviations from standard approaches. Then there are contractual aspects, consent with the clients and third parties, reporting requirements, technical specification, control days. Then we are speaking about schedule, so the time course and the milestones. Then we are speaking about resource requirements, that's estimated costs, overheads, and fixed costs. Personnel, about special qualification requirements, training required, legislative requirements. Then we have to speak about evaluation methods, evaluation procedures and standards, procedures for monitoring, collecting, and storing project performance data, and potential problems. A list of all probable potential problems which will result into the risk identification and risk analysis. The level of plans on this slide is deviated from the PRINCE2 methodology, where PRINCE2 methodology has 3 levels of the plans. The first level, there is the project plan, which is a general plan created at the beginning of the project. So the level of detail cannot be very deep. The second level of plan is the stage plan. The stage plan is created at the end of the previous stage. So we have the fresh, accurate data for each stage. And the smallest plan
or the lowest level is one work package which describe the one objective or one specific activity to be done to reach specific results. Why do we need the stage plans? Let's imagine that we are speaking now at the beginning about building the new building for the Faculty of Applied Sciences, and equipment of the building with the computer laboratories. Today, at the beginning of the project, we are definitely not able to say how much will the computers cost in 5 years from now, when the building will be finished and we will be supposed to equip the classes with the computers, because the prices and even the types of the computers on the market will be completely different 5 years from now. Therefore, in the project plan, we can write down something in terms of we are going to invest 40,000 crowns to the one computer station and equip the computer lab within this budget. But in the stage plan, which will be prepared 5 years from now, will be written, okay, we are going to buy the Hewlett-Packard notebooks of these parameters. So the stage plans are being created within the project at the end of the previous stage, always at the end of the previous stage, to allow them to be really accurate and detailed with the up-to-date information. And same applies for the work packages. Project planning and project scope management. Project planning is a set of activities, processes aimed at developing a roadmap for achieving project goals through directed work effort and using available resources. Project scope indicates the features and the functions that the product or service will have as a result of the project. The work that must be done to create a product with specific features and functions. Development of a project plan serves as a guide for project implementation. Documents the preconditions for the elaboration of the project plan, documents the decisions made to select alternatives to the plan, regulates the communication between the project participants, provides a basis for measuring the progress of the project for its management and control, defines key management decisions that relate to the content, scope, and deadlines of the project. Project plan should give us answers to the 5 basic questions. What? So supply specifications, how, the product creation path, with who will do what, and how will it be managed, when the product should be created and for how much it will cost. These are really simple and logical questions we need to answer within the project plan. Project plan define exactly what is to be done. For example, define project, products, outputs. The factual aspects defines what will exist after the end of the project. The procedural aspect says what activities will be performed within the project solution, respectively, what activities will be supported by solving the project. It is always necessary to define metrics or the achievement criteria when we can say that the project is successful. Again, let's say that we are speaking about your IDEG project, when we can say that the project was successful. I'm not sure how many individual projects they are going to be supported within this call, but I think it's something about 17 more or less. So let's say that the metrics will be the project will be successful when 10 individual projects will be completed successfully and the students will reach the PhD title, for example. Plan how the sub-goals and the overall goal will be achieved. What activities, often divided hierarchically into stages, steps, were appropriate actions, and in what sequence will use in the implementation process. Project plan. Plan what the project will be implemented with, in what structures the project will be organized, what resources we will need, and how we fill these resources with people. Project plan. We know what, we know how, commencement of activities, the date of termination of activity, determine how much the project will cost to be implemented. So we need some labor estimates in man hours, man days, man months, man years. Milestone. It is the main point in time at which the products or outputs are to be defined state, work in progress. Delays in development of product against the milestone threaten the completion date of the project as whole. Documents. The definition of the project subject document is compiled on the basis of the project plan and stage. What will be created within the project? Clear specification of the main objectives of the project. Clear definition of project outputs and results. And hierarchical division into the individual partial outputs. The project plan document contains all the necessary information about how the work on the project will proceed and how it will be managed. What will be the reactions to accident circumstances and how to proceed if something causes the change. Okay. And let's say that's all for today from my side. And now there is a time for your questions.
Will be this presentation available at anywhere?
Yes, according to my information, the presentation will be available at the Moodle course, and you will receive the link through email. But
Okay.
I'm not sure about it by 100%, but we agreed about this at the beginning of the course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I can see that there is just 6 of you at the end. So I thank you for your attention, and I hope it will help you in your further development, and see you next week.